this one out, did we? Just count down for us.
Okay. Not yet. I'll wait to 6 on the dot.
Good evening, and welcome to Moody Jones Gallery. We are winding down with the phenomenal women exhibit, Her Abstraction. During this month, we've had 4 phenomenal women abstract artists, and 2 of them we're going to be interviewing tonight. We're going to be interviewing Tiffany Davis, or Tiff, and Melanie Rodriguez. I want to share a little bit about the event tonight. Tonight the event is sponsored in collaboration with Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, Rho Theta Omega Chapter, and the Ivy Legacy Foundation. And it's all in recognition of the Black Arts Movement, that period from 1965 to 1975, when arts in the Black community was matched right along with the Black activists and civil rights movement. One of the most famous artists from that period is Alma Thomas, and she is the most well-known Black female abstractionist. Although her recognition for her abstract art came later in life, she was in her 70s, she is one of the few who was exhibited at major museums. When she first started her art career, she was a teacher, and then she became a figurative artist and drawing and painting people. Subsequently, it was thought that her art style matured, and as it matured, she turned to abstraction. This evening, these 2 women are going to share with us their growth as artists, and I'll start off by telling you a little about each of them. Tiff Davis is Philly-based. She's self-taught, and her paintings highlight motivational words. There are her paintings here in the gallery, and what you'll notice about them is the crowns. She believes that thoughts wear crowns, and we have to remember to fix or adjust our crown and thoughts from time to time. In addition, Melanie Rodriguez is here with us too. She's also a self-taught artist, and she goes on a journey of self-exploration, healing, and meditation. She is passionate about releasing and understanding emotions. And I'll let them share more of their stories. And I'll start with Tiff by just asking her, as you know, phenomenal woman, certainly that's a term and a poem we're all well aware of, made famous by Maya Angelou, who is a poet, artist, songstress, motivational speaker, civil rights activist. And I just want to get an idea from each of you, how she influenced you.
Thank you. So, yes, Maya Angelou influenced me because, when I look at Black women who have come before me, I look at how they have helped me grow. So, you talk about activism and, her just letting her voice be heard. So, a phenomenal woman to me means like you let your voice be heard, no matter if there's going to be times where people look at you like, be quiet. You don't be quiet. You don't stay in the background and be invisible. So that's what, and it also means resilience and letting your light shine through as best you can, even though you may be going through what it is you're going through personally. So that's just a little bit about what phenomenal woman means to me.
And Melanie, can you share?
That was great. Yeah, I totally So without Maya Angelou, we wouldn't have a place here today to be able to express and be confident in expressing freely. I think she definitely paved the way of being bold and fearless and just saying whatever you need to say. And I think that's super important. Something that's really awesome and that I just recently learned, that she shares the same birthday as my mom, which is April 4th, and just that fierceness that my mom has also showed me, and her bluntness is what I always say, but just like speaking her truth always, and allowing me that space as well to feel confident to speak my truth. And I do think that I've grown into this phenomenal woman that I can be proud of, because I wasn't always proud to be a woman, right? Like, it was something that I was like kind of embarrassed, or kind of, shameful, because men ruled everything, and really standing in my power, like, no, like, you're awesome. You offer so much light and love to the world. Like, this is why you were made. So I love the women who paved this before us, and I'm excited to continue the legacy of just sharing and expressing.
Now, I mentioned that both of you were self-taught, and I just want to explore that a little. Can you share it to us?
So yes, so I've been doing art since I was little. I did go to, my bachelor's is in visual communications, which was some art and graphic design and stuff like that, but I did not go to a full-blown art school, so self-taught as in, I guess, not doing a lot of the classes that you might get at a university of the art school or art institute school, but I do have a bachelor's of arts, and I did do a little bit of visual communications. So I enjoy it. Everything on the internet is available, so I get inspirations from different things and books as well. So I kind of I'm pretty much abstract myself. So I kind of take little bits and pieces of what I was taught in whether it's grade school, high school, college, and also just over time, just living life.
Hello, everybody. We've just been joined by Mrs. Ruth Bridges, and I'll have her, stand in before we're finished this evening.
Hi, how are you?
She's well known in the Philadelphia area as an artist and a teacher of art, and has many students that have gained their experience from her. So I just, she's off camera, but I do want to welcome her into the gallery. So, Melanie, can you share a little bit about your journey as a self-taught artist?
So I've taken no art classes at all. Maybe in high school, whatever they assigned me to do. But other than that, I've always been the doodler on the side of my notes and just trying to recreate things. But it wasn't until college that I really started to explore my own style of art and what that meant to me. I was tired of like recreating other people's work, and I was like, that doesn't really meld at all. That's just a recreation of this person's thing, and it wasn't really saying who I was. So I took a chance on myself and letting God do his work through me. And how I paint is actually with my eyes closed. So I'm not looking, I'm just feeling and using my emotions to guide me, and just releasing whatever thoughts and pains or any emotion that I'm dealing with to really to release and find some healing within it, and then reflecting on what I created and being like, wow, like this is actually what's going on in my mind, and being blown away with there's no other way I can describe it other than God, like painting using my hands, because I'm not involved in it. Well, I'm like physically there, but I feel like I'm really just trusting what Spirit is working through me to show, and I feel like I felt so much more in love with what I do, because it's not just me, and it's not only for me. It's really about like healing and discovering and reflecting. So really a meditative process, and and with that, with this style too, I've learned to release expectations and judgments, and that's why I love abstract so much, because it's what you make it and what other people make of it, and all of my work is up for interpretation. I can see one thing, but you can be moved by it a completely different way, and they're all so valid and literally a part of the whole creation. And I love that so much, that it's just like everything because everything is connected, and so I feel like abstract really brings that together, and I just let that guide the whole movement, and just always learning from what I do, what I see, and continuing that with it.
Can I add one thing? So now that I'm thinking back to when I was little, so I watched a lot of cartoons. So originally I thought I was going to be a cartoonist trying to mimic whatever I was watching on Saturday morning cartoons. And I also watched a lot of sports. So in class I would draw a lot of, I drew Kobe Bryant, a lot of, either my teachers or athletes. So I remember just drawing what I saw, and I also started to draw some graffiti. I grew up in West Philly and spent some time in North Philly as well, and I was always intrigued by some of the graffiti that was around, even though it was deemed as, bad, but some was very beautiful.
Well, one of the questions I had for you, Tiff, is about the crowns. That's, your work includes the crowns. Can you speak a little bit about that?
So yes. So the crowns come from a play on Jean-Michel Basquiat, but also a play on Queen Latifah back in the day when she would wear the hat. So that's pretty much where that comes from. And one of the pieces that pretty much helped make the series was when I created a piece called Too Many Basquiats, Not Enough New Artists. So that is where that comes from. So I have a piece that I have still in my personal collection that I haven't been able to sell yet, because that was the one that then people started being like, I like the Queen. I like the Queens, but I'm really an abstract artist. But it was motivational. We're always taught, fix your crown, you are a queen, you are a king, in the Black community. So that's, I enjoy it, and people love it too.
That's, I love what you said, and Basquiat has influenced many artists, and I don't know if you want to speak to that too, if, just your exposure to Basquiat and how that may have influenced you.
Yeah, he's incredible. I feel like there's no way to see any of his pieces and not be inspired and want to do something like it, because it's all just like so free and honest of like, this is what they're saying, this is how I feel about it, I'm confused about this, it's just like even the writing that's included to understand like what the message is, I think it's always so powerful, and you can always go back and learn something new from a piece, and that's like one of my favorite things. So yeah, I feel like in the beginning, people would be like, oh yeah, because Basquiat is like one of the few abstract artists everyone knows about, so like, oh that reminds me of that, I'm like, kind of, but just because it's abstract, it's not the same. But I'm like, I appreciate that compliment crazy, because yeah, definitely what inspired me to just speak my truth, seeing other people speak their truth, and I think that's what continues great art, of just being like, you don't have to recreate, just be you. That's supposed to be the inspiration. Do you. Show me who you are. What are your thoughts? Because I'll probably be thinking the same thing anyway, so, and I'll appreciate and resonate. So yeah, a great inspiration.
And the comment I'll make about Basquiat, he is probably, for current day, the most well-known abstract artist, black or white.
Right.
He just has that recognition now. He's in major collections, he's in museums. He certainly has generated the cost of his art, and I always get the number wrong, but it's more than any African American artist has ever received. Ever. I believe it's 200 million, is that the right number? 200 million for one of his paintings. And he is abstractionist to the core, and we lost him way too soon.
Right.
He was very young when he transitioned from here, and now his work is famous many years later, as is true for a lot of artists. The other thing I want to speak to is, in our community, and being a gallery owner, collector, curator, what I've learned about our community is that we are really into figurative art. We want to see art that looks like us. We are less likely to be interested in abstract art. Thus, one of the reasons for this show. It's about educating and increasing awareness and introducing something different to our community. Can each of you just comment on that?
I want to ask a question.
Excuse me, I have a question for Ms. Bridges. Yes.
It's realistic, and abstract art is basic of that realism.
So I'm going to share her comment. I'm not sure if you were able to hear it. what she was sharing is that it's realistic, and that abstract art is basic to that realism.
Yes, that's why I was wondering.
So abstract art can, yes. So I understand that a lot of folks like realism art, but depending on the messages that you put into abstract art, if you use phrases or words that your grandmother might have said to you, or Black excellence. One of my pieces is Black excellence. Words that resonate with the Black community. So abstract art can also do that, right? Use words or objects that might be, relate to folks who grew up a certain way in the Black community. So it can be more than basic, depending on how you do it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
Let me see. Ask you a question. Okay, when you, art is life.
Art is life. I'm repeating what Mrs. Bridges
And-
is sharing.
Most of the artists that you see, even though they never recognize us, but art goes from music, it goes from poetry, it goes from reading, writing, everything in art.
And what she's sharing is the different mediums for art, so poetry, music.
If you, because for 10 years I worked at the museums, talking about art, and you, art is very, very detailed. It can be abstract art, it can be abstract expressions, it can be realism, but there are basic things that come within realism or abstraction. You live the life, and you feel what's going on around you. If you ever study some of the artists and look at some of the during wartime, terrible times, they express themselves. It wasn't realism, but it was still real, even though it was abstract. And as soon as you looked at it, you got that feeling. You didn't have to go any further.
And one of the things I'll comment on is some of the things we hear from potential clients. I think people aren't necessarily used to the fact that art is supposed to cause some kind of feeling or emotion or reaction, and that everything isn't happy. But just sharing in our experience, some of the comments that we've had is, why don't you have more happy pieces? Why don't you have more artwork that's just people like we are? So we're always addressing that, and I want to give Melanie an opportunity just to talk a little bit about, the abstraction versus the figurative, the art that looks just like us.
Yeah, I think this is interesting because it just came up recently. Someone was saying, they made a post like, people who do abstract art instead of activist art, activists like realism art are not doing their job. And I was like,
Not true.
right, exactly, it is not true. Because just like you said, we are experiencing and feeling everything, and this is my release of what I'm feeling, and that's so important for me to get it out. And show, so it is very emotional. You hear my voice, I'm like, ooh, because it's all the emotions. And I feel like me doing that provides an opportunity, an example that you can to release this pain. It is painful. But what I love about abstract is I'm transforming my pain every time into a masterpiece that I can reflect and be like, I grew from that. I learned from that. Every time I look at it, I remember that I overcame that obstacle as well. And look how, look at it. Like, you wouldn't even know that I was crying while I was painting, So abstract does so much more. And like I was saying, that anyone that looks at it can interpret it a different way and find their own healing within to it. They're like, I see God hugging me in this, and somebody said, I see my grandma handing me a cookie, whatever everybody feels, and it's that feeling that is rising. And I think it's so important. I appreciate realism art, of course. I love both, but I don't think we're doing a disservice to our activist community. I think this is a part of speaking up and being different and being like, I don't have to recreate something that someone wants me to, but I'm gonna be true to myself and create what I feel and keep going with that. And yeah, so I'm so appreciative of the abstract art so much, because it allows me to have my own lane and not to compare or compete. I know that this, like, whatever I make is me and it's real, and it's not wrong.
So both of you, the work that's here at the gallery is on canvas, you know, and I honestly, I have to say, I don't know if it's acrylic or oil on canvas, but it's clearly painting on canvas. Are there other mediums that either of you work in?
So besides the canvas, I also work on wood as well. I'm trying to get more into collage, mixed medium. I have done some pieces that were mixed medium, and I do use acrylic. I also use spray paint as well. And another series that I have, you guys only have, I think, one piece from that. It's called Colorful Storms, and you know, that's basically there's sunshine and rain. So basically, it's an abstract series where I'm just feeling whatever it is that I'm feeling. I could be listening to music. Well, a lot of the music inspires the Colorful Storms pieces that I create. So yeah.
What about you?
So most of my work here is just acrylic, or acrylic marker with paint. But what I also work on, some digital art. I try to do the same abstract feel, but sometimes I do more realistic things because I have like the tools to erase and, you know, play around. But recently I've got into sculpting, so I'm really excited about that. I've been getting a lot of messages. I'm super spiritual, so I'm always trying to find the signs, listen, and really be guided. So I've been getting a lot of signs for hands. They're like, use your hands. So I'm like, okay, I paint, but they're like, no, more hands. So I was like, okay, let's go. And instantly, I'm like, whoa, I love this. And this brings me so much joy. So I'm excited to see what I create with that, because I've always admired sculptures and just like 3D art. So stay tuned.
I'll tell you one of the things that, you know, and I always ask this question of artists, and I always try to, you know, I think about it first, how am I going to pose this question? Not so much, you know, as something for you guys to be challenged by, but for our audience. Oftentimes when people do, they're decorating their room or home, and they find a piece of art to match the room. So I just want each of you to comment on that. We'll start with you.
Find a piece of art to match the room. Well, I just purchased a beautiful piece for you guys. It's by Yolanda Ward, and it not only matched the room, but it matched what I was going through at the time. And it was one of the pieces where it's the young woman with the bag on her head, and it says, "I carried it." So it just, you know, I think that it's important to not only find pieces of art that matches your decor, but also speaks to, you know, your journey or your family's journey or a time, you know, takes you, because it can be photography too, taking you back to a time. So I think that's important.
Yeah, I love that. I think most of the pieces that I've purchased or create or anything that I enjoy are mostly just that. Do I resonate? Do I fit? Like how am I connected to it? And I think what you're connected to should be what your vibe in your house is, you know? So if that is truly how you feel, then it naturally fits in with you. And my house personally is very colorful, so anything could work because I love all colors. So I'm like, yep, I can do that. Or I'll just, the section right there, if it needs to be changed up a little bit, but it is the connection. What does it make you feel? Does it remind you to be happy, to find a new perspective? I always want reminder pieces that remind me, the crown, I like that. To adjust my thoughts. So any painting that adjusts my thought, I need that in my life. And it doesn't matter if it matches or not, I'll make it match. I'll buy a new pillow, you know, like whatever. But that is, you know, and I think sometimes when people say that, it's before understanding the piece, right? They're like, I only see the colors. I don't know why you made it. I only see the colors, and I'm like, oh, will it match? And it's like, but if you heard the message and you felt it, then it wouldn't matter if it matched or not. If it matches your soul, then I think that's the piece that you need.
So my takeaway from both of you just then was that it spoke to you.
Yeah.
whatever it is that you know, the art that you purchase for yourselves, it speaks to you in some way, it evokes some kind of emotion or thought, or as you said, a memory, a reminder, and that's what art should do. The other thing that's important is that Black artists are being supported. You know, we need to be supporting our own, and we're always encouraging, you know, clients yet to be and current clients about really supporting our artists by buying original art. Can you, each of you, take a turn to speak to that?
Yeah, so, you know, any chance I get, I try to support other artists. You know, I do an art show years ago where it was all female artists. And that was an opportunity to come together as a collective and, you know, so that our networks can come and purchase our art if we're not purchasing each other's art. So I definitely think it's important to purchase, you know, Black art or whether it's, you know, visual art or, you know, music or entertain, going to a show. I think you can support Black artists in different ways.
Yeah, I think it's super important. It is a difficult thing because I feel like within my own community, a lot of people, it's progressing, but in the beginning, they didn't understand what I was doing and didn't see the value in what I was doing. And it did take those spaces of collective art shows and finding those groups that were on appreciating art, but I feel like it is still very hard, and even like from family, like as close as family, is it so hard to get people to understand and appreciate, and to not want to just get like what is like mainstream media, what's in like Marshalls and Target, you know, like, so, and how to price it, I think is the other part of that. Like, oh, but I want you to have it, so let me like lower it. And it's like, am I doing myself a disservice? I want you to have something. And it's still a work in progress for myself as well. I try to always work with people if they want to commission pieces. Like, okay, like what is your range? I want you to have something if you want to have something. And so let's make it work. And that's been good. It's people are like, I really appreciate this style. I don't know if I believe in that price. And I'm like, okay, let's work something out. And just that support, and even if it's just a promotion of my art, I think that's supporting and uplifting regardless. But same, whatever costs me at any show, do I want to be proactive and not just want to sell my work, but also show like I am appreciative of your work too, and I want you to keep creating, and I see you and support you. And if it's price low, I'm like, you need to know your work, because it's not $100. Is are you kidding me? And I know so many artists that undersell themselves because they're like, well, I just need it to sell, and I just want, and it's like, shh.
And I want to follow up on that. As you were both speaking, I was thinking of that it's I don't want to say undervalued, but it's the getting your work out there sometimes may cause you to price it for less than it should be priced. And you're both emerging artists, so that means that, you know, it could be a wide range in terms of what the cost of your individual art pieces are. And I know that's sometimes based on the content and the time that you spend, and then there's supplies and the meaning of the piece to you. I would assume that all of that goes into how you generate what the figure should be for your art.
Yeah, it definitely was a struggle.
No, I definitely think what you said. I mean, a lot of things go into prices. I think it depends on where you are in your art journey, what venues you're at. If I'm in the middle of West Philly at a recreation center, then I would think it's like, you know, why would I try to sell someone a piece for $5,000 there when I know the struggle? So you can sell it for that price, but I also recognize that when you're trying to be a certain level of an artist, you should have prints. You should have T-shirts. You should not just be. You can, you know, just be a visual artist that doesn't have other merchandise. But if it's just about the art, then it's about the art. But you know, I don't know. I think it all depends on the venue where you are and where you are in your career.
Right.
Do you think that your life itself contributes to the way you express yourself?
So the question was coming from Mrs. Bridges, do you think that your life itself contributes to the way you express yourself? And before you answer that, I just wanted Melanie to have an opportunity to speak about pricing her artwork, pricing her artwork.
Yeah, I love that you said there's other ways to sell the same painting through prints and other ways to, even printed canvases are another option. And so I tried to do it, my first, like you had your first piece that was your rock. I have mine, the first one I ever did with my eyes closed. I'm like, it's a small one too, so people were like, print small, it should be cheap. I'm like, you don't even know how this piece changed my life. Like, you know, so, but prints sell so well. I mean, there's a new, maybe you guys heard of it, NFTs now, so it's like the digital conversion of paintings and stuff. So my dad's been telling me, he's like, well, what if you just put it on there? It's kind of like people can buy stock in your painting.
I've heard that recently, buying stock in your paintings.
So that's another option for ones that we don't want to sell because they're so valuable. Or like,
how does that work? How would I buy stock in your painting? What would be the value for me to do that?
I don't know all the details, so I won't even pretend. But I guess it's just like having stock in anything. And I think you get like a digital version of it, so maybe it's like a digital frame. Like, you know how they have the picture, you could have that art piece. I know of a lot of photographers / digital artists that are doing that, and I think it's cool because maybe the price that they would have wanted to sell wouldn't be, but now it's ridiculous how much they can make because each person is contributing to just having a share of it, which is interesting. But it's another option of being able to get your art out and not having to like undersell it if you feel like it's more valuable.
I mean, some people are against prints, but I think there's different. If you have to educate yourself and go to people who know the different quality of different types of printing.
Right.
So not just FedEx or Kinko's, which a new artist, you know, obviously you have to do what you have to do. But there's even, you know, there's different various types of prints and techniques and different inks and stuff that makes a print even more valuable than the regular paper. So, yeah.
And I'm just wondering, I mean, I always think of, you know, high quality print as a serigraph, which is I guess a hand pulled screen print where the artist is definitely involved in creating that image. Is that still being done? I hear so much about giclées, or you know, which are the computer generated images. Are the serigraphs still being produced?
I think some folks are, you know, some high galleries are probably saying, if I do sell a print, it has to be this type of print, you know what I mean? So I think there's levels to everything to make it work for the type of gallery you want to be, and the type of artist, you know, you want to be. So yeah.
You know, sometimes prints will give you a certain way of expressing what you're trying to say. And like in silk screen, things come out different than the way you paint, and that's what you're looking for. And I think it's good for you to know all about the different ways of printing. Wood block print, how you cut it out and get old and print. Silk screen is a different way you use silk that is hooked onto a frame, and you have to pull it color by color. But I sometimes wonder, I think sometimes it's kind of good to relax a little bit and understand different ways of art. Because when I saw abstract expressionism, I thought it was ridiculous. Lines and scribbles and so forth.
Oh, when you first,
and colors and stuff. What is this? But I soon learned to like it very much.
and I love that. So Mrs. Bridges was sharing when she saw abstract, and it was wide lines and scribbles, and she's like, what is this? But she soon learned to love it, which is really what we want to encourage everyone to get to that next step.
Most paintings, I like Ramar Beard.
Yes, Ramar Beard.
Yes, I knew him. I met him. And it was very poetic. He had poetry and things. And he did a lot of life itself. He had scenes where he was at wonderful art. As
Ms.
a-
Bridges, I'm gonna pause you for a moment, because I'm feeling like we need to have an interview just with you. You are, such a wealth of information and impressions, and I don't wanna take away from what you're saying.
I'm saying that
And
because I
this,
listen to what
and
they're
this,
saying.
no, as I'm listening, I'm like, I wanna hear more, I wanna hear more. And so we have to set that
I'll
up.
keep quiet so you can.
We have to set that up, because I'm loving
Keep
this
quiet.
interaction. I'm
Yes,
loving
I
this
have.
interaction, with the potential to have a
I'll tell you
circle
something.
of young
I've been
artists with
painting
you.
for over 70 years.
Wow.
So-
See, you have a story to tell. You have a story to tell, and we have to hear that story, and I just think in really all respect for you, I wanna give you your due. I definitely wanna give you your due. Not at all, not at all. The other thing, questions that people ask us when they are thinking about purchasing art, you know, we're always educating. In fact, I have this, John, can you hand me that book? I just came across this book. I was Googling books on Black women artists, and this is a book that's actually out of print that I ordered via Amazon, and it's a copy that a library had withdrawn from circulation. And the name of it is Creating Their Own Image, The History of African American Women Artists. I've never seen it either. I just Googled African American women artists, and this book came up, and I ordered it immediately, and the author is Lisa Farrington, but I wanted to share that because it was a wealth of information, and it's divided into different styles and mediums. There are definitely artists. I mean, when I was reading through it, I realized how many artists, you know, where they call Philadelphia home or were here for a time. And as I said, it's a variety of mediums, but it's all women artists. And so I definitely recommend this book as a follow-up to educating ourselves. I haven't really had a chance to read it. It came right before our show opened in May, and I've just been picking chapters and looking at it. But great book, and potentially an inspiration for all of us, for collectors and for artists, you know, just to get more information about it. The other thing I wanted you to share, and this is your first time here at our gallery, which is, you know, awesome. Thank you so much for, you know, accepting the invitation, and it just gave us just a look at some new techniques, new styles, new visions, new emotion that came out, and what drives you, and kind of, we talked a little bit about that, but I wanted to give each of you an opportunity to speak a little bit more about what drives you. You know, what keeps you going, because I think we all know that, you know, the starving or almost starving artist is not made up. You know, and so it has to be a passion about what you're doing. But I definitely wanted to give you each an opportunity to speak to that. I'll start with you, Tiff.
Yeah, so it's always a struggle, you know, between making money with a 9 to 5 and then trying to make time for doing art. And that's a struggle that I have. But what drives me is that's really who I am. I think that's really what God called me to do, which is why I try to stick with it. And I try to do art, you know, life is hard. And you know, I try to do art that helps motivate people, sends them a message that's positive or uplifting. And just, you know, I don't think art, I think I was born to be an artist. I really feel that way. And it is a struggle because, you know, I was taught by my parents who always kept a job. It's like 9 to 5, you know what I mean? Because you gotta pay I understand why. But it's definitely something that which is why now I have my own art studio again, and just trying to make it a reality. You know, the 9 to 5 does pay bills, but corporate world can sometimes drain you because it drains you of your creativity. So yeah, what drives me is knowing that you can create the world. You can have both. If you do have to keep a job, you can also be an artist. You know, and I'm always envious of the starving artists who are traveling to California. I'm like, how did you get there? You don't work. I'm like, and I'm like, you know, and I'm like, I could be so much further, you know, if I kind of just stepped out like that. But I'm like, what? It's not what I went to high school for or college for. I gotta stick to the script. But I think that what drives me is that I was called for it. People really relate to what it is I'm doing, and I feel like that, you know, happiness, it's your life, you have to live it how you want to.
I feel like same. Art chose me. God chose me for art too, and every time I'm painting, am I reminded of my purpose and why I'm here? You know, life is super hard, and you know, this past year has been nuts. Like to every degree, every sector, all of the above, and a lot of my recent pieces that I'm really proud of came during quarantine time, and it really grounded me every time I was painting. Like, don't worry, like you get through everything you've been through. Like, look back. These are all your transformation pieces. This is the proof that this is what you're here to do. Keep doing it, so that I can't stop art. I actually said goodbye to my 9 to 5 during this quarantine time. It was already funky there because it was like, no mask, come in, don't come in, you need a test, you don't need. So I was like, you know what? I feel like this is my passion, and I really want to give it my 100%. And I don't want to only do it when I come home from work because I'm super tired and I was too drained. It really like takes it all out of you. And I was being so like negative, like, again and again. So I was like, I can't, it's like not good for my spirit. Like I'm really becoming depressed by this. And so I was like, I'm gonna have to just go in every day, all day long, and push out as many pieces as I can, and always posting it, like, look what I'm doing. And you know, when you're really walking in your purpose and you feel connected and it's with integrity, it'll line up. Like finding this gallery was God sent, you know, like God's like, I see you working, you want to do this? Here's another one. And I'm just like so grateful every time because it reminds you like this is where you need to be. So I couldn't keep denying it. I'm like, you're right, and this is where I feel the happiest at. So gotta keep pushing it.
I love that each of you shared, you know, where you are in that journey and the authenticity that came out from it. You know, that okay, I still got my 9 to 5 gig and do my art as much as I can and still have the passion. And then there's the other hand where okay, the 9 to 5 has to go. I'll figure out how to do this, but I really want to focus. And both of those are very valid. They're both very valid, and there's a richness that I get from both of you and how you got to this point right now, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen next.
I think the other thing too, I just want to add, me and my boyfriend were just talking about it. When you have limited resources is when you become the most creative. And I feel like when I'm in a tight spot, I'm like, okay, well, I don't got enough for paint, so, you know, let's mix up this, let's use this. I don't have enough for a canvas right now. Okay, improvise, I'm gonna paint, and then I'm just like, wow, look what I made out of nothing. And that's even more inspiration of like, you can transform anything, you know? So I do appreciate when I mean, I don't want to stay there forever, right? Like, in the tight spot, I definitely want to make some big bucks, but I'm super appreciative for the tight spots that make me have to become resourceful and creative, because that it really the best comes out. I'm like, whoa, and I'm so proud to be like, only with these limited objects and resources was I able to create this. And so I understand like the limitedness, but we were just talking about it, just appreciating that it really gets you to be creative. Like, all right, well, how can I work with what I got and level it up?
And there's something about artists, at least for me, that I always see you as walking in your purpose. And so many of us don't step out and do that. You know, we get stuck in what we're doing, and Tiff, you found a way to, right, for the time being, to make that work in both worlds. That's how I look at it, is in both worlds. And that's brave. I think both of you are so brave that, you know, you have this purpose, you have this passion, and you're hearing God speak to you and through you, and you're on your path. You are on your path.
That's wonderful.
Yes.
I love that you said that about like not everybody's willing or confident enough to walk in their purpose, and I think from doing this, and even people that don't understand it, they're like, whoa, if she's doing these scribbles, I could definitely do what I'm doing, you know? Even if they see it like that.
Right.
But I'm still influencing that in their lives. So like even family members, they're like, some family members are just like, yeah, that I would never buy that. But they're like, if she can make money off of doing that, I could definitely make money off of doing what I like too. And even that, I really appreciate being that light or that example or what that push to be like, you can do whatever you want, whatever it is. Whatever, if it lights you up, if you feel right doing it, if it makes you happy, like, just do it, and it'll fall in line. Not right away, of course everything takes time, and it's all for the documentary anyway. That's how it, you know, you need a story, so it's gonna take its time, but definitely just trying and stepping out there, I think is so important. It's just, you're here, don't waste what you got, because we all got something.
That's right.
We all got it, we all got it.
Yeah, I mean, my greatest fear is, you know, not leaving Earth without doing what I really wanted to do. That's right. Or not reaching whatever I felt my full potential was, you know, in reference, in relation to the universe, what they felt I was supposed to do, you know. So, yeah, you just got to do it. And my motto is, there's enough ugly things in the world, so create some beautiful things. And I recognize that your art may not be for everybody, but it is for someone.
Right. Ooh, I like that.
I like that quote. We're gonna have to use that.
Right.
That captures it so perfectly.
It's true, because something that someone else might be like, I really like that. And if someone standing next to you, like, why? I don't understand it. But there's something out there for everybody, all kinds of art, you know. So.
And as you're saying that, I mean, Adrian and I, we're the Moody Jones, you know, we're a married couple. We have very different tastes in art, and we always have, and what we've collected and even what we bring to the gallery reflects that. Because he'll see something, it's like, he'll love it, I'm like, why? This ain't, you know, it just doesn't speak to me, it doesn't bring out any, well, if anything, if it brings out an emotion, it's like, okay, I don't want to feel that, I don't want to have that, I'm just not getting that. But that's the beauty of art.
Yeah.
That is the beauty of it. It's just there is something, some piece, and I'm not including the entire world of art. Right here now, I'm really talking about visual art, because there's so many other ways to express yourself creatively that are art. But visual art, there is something that will speak to you. Yeah, absolutely, there's something that will speak to you. And the 4 women that we have here for Phenomenal Women, and we've been having the Phenomenal Women show since we opened. And it's, but I love just meeting the women who are artists and hearing them tell their stories. And one of the things we always try to do here, and what I really recommend this past year, which was not the norm for us to be a country in quarantine, and particularly here in Pennsylvania to be in quarantine. So it didn't allow us to have the artist receptions. Artist receptions are a way for the public to meet and talk to the artists, to be able to ask them questions about their work, because that also not only increases your education about the art, but gives you an understanding and awareness. Just by speaking to someone, they're sharing with you. These artists are sharing with you why they did that piece. You can ask them, well, why that color? You know, or why that medium? Why that shape? Why those scribbles? Why that crown? And I think it's important that you meet the artist one-on-one and take that opportunity to speak to them, because just looking at it doesn't give you the full picture. You know, it doesn't give you their passion or the thought that went into it, or, you know, the fact that this piece only took me a few hours to do, this one took me months to do, maybe even years to do, because I had to put it down and come back to it. So that's the kind of information you can get just from being in the company of artists. And the energy here today was like, I'm up here just speaking to Tiff and Melanie, you know, 2 very different artists, 2 very different styles, 2 different approaches, 2 different journeys, but both with the same passion about their work that they're doing, and both with a willingness to share with you what it is and why they do it.
Excuse me, I want to shut up.
No.
One thing I see, and like you said, they're 2 different people, but you still have the same way of expressing how you feel. Your lines might look different, your colors might be different, but it's what you're saying, and your colors are what you're saying, which makes it totally different. And I think they're all beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Yes, they really are. I guess we're gonna close out. Before we close out, I did want to share that we were intended to have Nabil McKeet with us this evening, who's a jazz saxophonist, but due to illness, he couldn't be with us. You can find his recordings on Bandcamp. He's a very talented young man that graduated in very recent years from with a degree in music, and forgive me if I've forgotten the name of his university, but he in New Orleans, which he can't wait to get back to, by the way, to really be able to express himself in his art. So, Nabil, please feel better. But I did want to close out and give each of you an opportunity to just say some closing words to our audience. Melanie, do you want to start, and then Tiff?
Sure. First off, to you all, thank you for welcoming me and being here. It's always divine, and I always feel like everything's intentional and no coincidences. So I'm really appreciative, and I just want to say thank you. What I want to say to everybody else is, if you feel something in your heart, whatever you feel, let it out. Be true to yourself and always do your best. Remember that art heals all. That's actually my website too. But absolutely, whatever form it is, all forms, everything is art really if you think about it. And it does heal. So find your healing, and I'm excited for your journey as well. And thank you for listening to ours.
Yes, so just to piggyback off of what Melanie said, I want to thank both of the Moody's for this opportunity and for also being representation. You don't see a lot of Black-owned galleries, and also Black-owned galleries that also bring in Black artists or majority Black artists. So I think that is very big for the community here in Philadelphia, and I'm happy to be a part of that. And also in terms of the audience, thank you for coming. I hope that you make it to the show. I think the show is still up until 15th, right?
And we actually were going to invite you to stay a little longer, but that's another discussion. So you know.
Yes. And in terms of it, if there's any emerging artists out there, just know that just be you, get inspiration, but just keep coming back to it, and whatever it is that you want to do artistically will go in that direction if you just stick with it.
Thank you, and thank you to Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Rho Theta Omega Chapter of the Ivy Legacy Foundation for partnering up with us this evening for this artist talk. Good evening.
Yay.